You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the capitalist corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the capitalist corner.
Welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz. Persephone, last minute, found out she's going to be joining me today. How great is that? Thank you so much, Persephone. Lot to talk about today. First, just remember, super chats, super stickers, greatly appreciated. Also, the Rational Alternative channel, we got a ton of content on there. A lot of content coming down the pike. Check that out. Maybe become a member. We got extra stuff for the members. Also, we got merch. We're streaming on Twitch. We're on, what's the other one there? Spotify. All kinds of places. And just so you know, there's an awesome, awesome episode of The Rational Egoist out right now where Jim Valiant, Professor Andy Bernstein, and myself discuss Andy Bernstein's new book. Let me see if I have it over here. I do. A Challenge to Determinism. Good book, great discussion. I want to tell you something quickly that happened to me this morning before we get into the topics, Persephone. Is that okay with you?
No.
I got the wrong freaking thing up here. Hold on. Had to change that. Okay. Don't give me that. Don't give me that. Okay. What the hell was I going to say? Okay, so this morning... somebody, I put out the clips, you send me the clips, and I post them. So somebody comments on a clip of Megan Ribbons and I talking and says, oh, this conservative white guy. And so I'm like, dude, I'm not a conservative. Oh, yeah, I'm sure you'll ration. I'm echoing. Something's going on with your computer. So the guy tells me, you'll come up with all kinds of rationalizations for why you're not a conservative. I'm like, dude, I'm pro-choice, I'm pro-immigration, and I would end the war on drugs today. Like, oh, yeah, that's just what I thought you would say. Blah, 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 blah. You're just like 70% of the white guys I know. I said, dude, I grew up on welfare in housing projects and spent 25 years in prison. Hold on. So he comes back. The dude's a dick. He doesn't understand who I am or anything, right? So he says, "Oh yeah, you're unique, one of a kind." And I said, "No, I'm just wondering how you don't drown in the shower." I told him, "Look," he says, "Well, if you didn't know I was right, you wouldn't be bothered." I'm like, "Dude, I'm not bothered." He said, "Yeah, that's why you are responding, because you're not bothered." I said, dude, I'm responding because I love to debate and it helps the algorithm. Like, you're not. But it just occurred to me, Persephone, and when I'm done, then you can jump in because I can see you're eager. And I posted about this on Facebook and on X. I've been told by conservatives that I'm a progressive. I've been told by progressives that I'm a conservative. I've been told by objectivists that I'm a libertarian. I've been told by libertarians that I'm a statist. And I've been told by the pro-Israel crowd that I'm a shill for the Palestinians, and by the pro-Palestinian crowd that I'm a shill for Israelis. And not only that, but our old friend Michael Nyron, speaking of how someone doesn't drown in the shower, he comes out and says to me, well, maybe this is a good reason to self-reflect. Yeah, that's what it is, dum-dum. I've been consistent in virtually every position that I take. They're all consistent with each other. And the fact that each tribe thinks I'm in the other tribe is a reason for me to self-reflect. Kathy Cassio, I don't have to justify myself to anybody, but I don't know if you know Kathy. But one, I do like to debate. Two, when people comment and you engage with them, it promotes what you're trying to do. So I could just ignore everybody that comments, but then the shows don't get much traction.
Where was this comment? I'm curious. Was it on TikTok by any chance?
No, it was on Instagram. But this, I mean, the thing is, the funny thing is this guy believes himself to be a very insightful person. He doesn't understand that he's a dime a dozen when it comes to tribalists. That people that live in tribal echo chambers see everybody that's not in their tribe as whatever tribe that they are at battle with.
Yeah, they're not looking at the ideas. They're just saying you are the opposing team. Because I don't
Yes.
know how you can say like, oh, classic conservative, and when you turn around and say, well, actually, here's all of the views that I hold that aren't conservative, then they switch tactics to like, oh, well, you're just like 70% of the other guy. No. Pick a lane. Like, what's your issue?
Yeah, my experience, I got to be honest, getting out of prison, like, cause I'm looking at Ray's comment, has been one disillusionment after the other. I got out of prison and identified as politically as a libertarian, philosophically as a promoter of objectivism, although I didn't call myself an objectivist. Some libertarians cured me of that. I didn't want to be associated with that. And then Jim Valiant convinced me to call myself an objectivist. Subsequent events have convinced me not to. Just for the record, for the listening audience or whatever, and most of you probably know this, the way to win arguments or to promote your ideas is not to make straw man arguments of your opponents. That happens way, way, way too much.
I don't actually know that a lot of those people who are doing these things, I don't think they want to convince anyone of anything. I think that they want to start fights. I think that if you pressed a lot of those people on their views, they wouldn't actually have like a solid view on most things. They just want to pick fights. They haven't thought about things enough, and like that's their whole thing. Is they go on TikTok, they watch a reel, and then they're like, "Wow, this is so stupid." Just because that's like what gets them going. I don't think that they would know what they'd want to convince someone of.
Akira, I would not say I'm somebody who thinks there's no hope. I just think that maybe that hope needs to be directed in a different sort of direction.
More realistic
Persephone
direction.
what Persephone just said, but she was talking about how they don't even want to promote things. But I have to think that somebody, for instance, like a Keith Weiner, he's an objectivist. He's a owner, or a CEO of a company. I don't know exactly what he is in the company, and the guy spends a good amount of his time fighting straw men, saying things like libertarians are predominantly anarchists. And then the evidence he promotes is some libertarians are anarchists, and he doesn't know any libertarians that are challenging them. I do, of course, but that's neither here nor there. But the interesting thing is Keith's company, Monetary Metals, sponsors Dave Smith's podcast, an anarchist, Tom Wood's podcast, anarchist, and Bob Murphy's podcast, anarchist. And I was thinking this morning, today I didn't respond. A lot of times I'll go back and forth with them, but I've decided it's pointless. But I thought to myself, if you're so interested and you think anarchy is such a threat, you'd probably have a lot more success fighting them if you just stopped spending money promoting them, as opposed to picking some echo chamber social media group to talk about them. But that's just me.
I don't have a lot of hope that like most people who are posting about ideas and things like that, I don't have a lot of hope that most of those people aren't posting for engagement or, like, as we say in marketing, to build authority for other reasons, not necessarily because they believe in something. I feel like it's that way for a lot of the people who are the loudest about their opinions.
Just go ahead. I'm sorry, Persephone.
I don't think that I don't think that most people who are posting about these things and getting into debates, like, I don't think that they're as principled as you are. I think that a good chunk of them, if it came down to like having to make a decision between making money on something that they don't agree with and sticking to their principles, I think that they would betray their principles because they don't actually hold them.
Perhaps. So Ian Gilmore asks, he says that it's, what's he say? Let me get it exactly. He says, aren't most libertarians anarchists? I don't think it's all, but it seems like it would be the majority. Okay. I said this yesterday, I think. Maybe who the hell knows where I said it, but I'll say it again. Consider. Libertarianism as a term in its modern usage was suggested by a guy named Dean Russell. He suggested it in the pages of the Freeman, the magazine put out by the Foundation for Economic Education. So let's just start there. The Foundation for Economic Education was founded by Leonard E. Read, not an anarchist. Dean Russell, not an anarchist, the guy that suggested using it. He suggested it because the term liberal had been lost. So really it's a term that's to be, promoting classical liberalism. That's the first thing. Brian Doherty wrote a book, Radicals for Capitalism, a freewheeling history of the modern libertarian movement. He suggests 5 thinkers that have done the most to impact libertarianism in the modern sense. Ludwig von Mises, Ayn Rand, Friedrich Hayek, Milton Friedman, Murray Rothbard. 5 of them. 4 of them, not anarchists. There's 3 women that are identified as 3 furies of libertarianism. Ayn Rand, Isabel Patterson, Rose Wilder Lane. None of them are anarchists. In his book, Triumph of Liberty, the libertarian historian, Jim Powell, 65 biographies of people who have influenced or impacted human liberty. Out of 65, 62 not anarchists. Popular libertarian organizations, Reason, Cato, Foundation for Economic Education, none anarchists. Even the Libertarian Party, it's been around, I think, since 1972. I don't believe there's been even one anarchist who's gotten the nomination for president, despite anarchists running. If you Google definitions of the word libertarian, not anarchist. It talks about limited government. In Cato's description of principles of libertarianism, they talk about advocating for limited government. If you Google, are the majority of people, or you ask Claude or any of these, the majority of libertarians anarchists, the answer is no. It is true that the loudest among them are anarchists, but they're not anarchists. A more apt critique of libertarianism would be that it's such a broad term as to render it virtually meaningless.
Political scientists who study libertarianism often estimate that perhaps 20 to 40% of active libertarian activists and intellectuals lean anarcho-capitalist, but that is more of an informed judgment than a hard survey result. The general consensus is that anarchists are a significant minority within the libertarian movement.
Okay, so Ian says this is part of the problem that I have when we have these discussions. Ian says some of the reason people are 100% anarchist. Okay. I did not say nobody that ever worked at Reason is an anarchist. What I'm saying is Nick Gillespie, not an anarchist. The content of the magazine, not promoting anarchism. That's what I'm saying. It's not a organization that is out there promoting anarchists. Did you see what happened to Diana up here?
About the granola bar?
So Diana, my girlfriend, is a nanny. And so she is taking care of 2 4-year-olds. I think they're 4. And evidently, this happens to me all the time, but she evidently hit post. She recorded what she's yelling at the kid, Finley is the little girl, and she tells her, I'm throwing away a granola bar and your food, Finley, you're done. and then she says, oh my God, no. That is awesome.
But anyway, so I mean,
That's awesome. Hold on one second. Ian, I understand that those aren't arguments about the people that call themselves libertarian today. Not in and of themselves. What I'm saying is, if you've got the history of a movement that goes back to, say, the 40s or the 30s, and there's an abundance of evidence, Robert Nozick's book, Anarchy, State, and Utopia, not advocating for anarchy. And you come up to the present day and you see the Libertarian Party not nominating anarchists for president, despite them being on the ballot in their primaries. If you see people like Reason Magazine, Foundation for Economic Education, Cato, prominent libertarian organizations not promoting anarchy. If you see that the majority of people that identify as libertarians are not anarchists. If you understand that there's so many arguments within the libertarian movement about who are the real libertarians, this happens all the time. And then even within, like you look at the anarchists, right? There's your Rothbardian anarchists. They're then you got sort of the Hoppian anarchists. You got the new Liquid Zulu anarchists, but you've also got David Friedman anarchists. These people are not, they differ vastly on their views. Michael Huemer anarchists, right? They differ vastly, and they argue with what they call minarchists all the time. These are common disputes within them. None of this, by the way, is meant as a defense of libertarianism. I just think it's important, I don't know, if you're going to identify yourself with the philosophy of Ayn Rand and you're going to be making arguments, it's important to identify and state what their positions are and make arguments against their actual positions. Don't just make assertions about the implications of their positions without proving it and ascribe to them positions which they don't take. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I find a lot of these labels mean nothing in practice, because someone will identify as an objectivist, and then when you look at their beliefs and their principles and their viewpoints and what they put on the internet, it doesn't match up with objectivism at all. So most of the time, the labels are useless. They don't actually tell you anything meaningful about the person. They tell you what that person thinks that label means, which might be completely opposite to its
you and I did a show. We had on an episode of Everyday Ethics recently, and we were talking about labels. And I said labels are important, and I think they are. But it's important that they actually capture something, that they mean something. They have to be delimited enough so that they actually differentiate one concept from another. Much of our modern political discourse now, conservative, liberal, libertarian, these words have been watered down to the point of meaninglessness. That I could tell you the definition of libertarianism. The definition of libertarianism, in essence, is somebody that believes that individuals should be left alone as long as they aren't initiating force, violating the rights of other people. That's fine and that's good. Yes, limited government capitalism, but then you say, okay, what about immigration? Is immigration initiating force? Is immigration violating the rights of the immigrant, or to allow them come? Is that violating the rights of the people here? Intellectual property. Is intellectual property legitimate? And if you violate someone's intellectual property, are you violating their rights? Or is intellectual property in and of itself a violation of rights? That's just a couple off the top of my head, but there's so many issues where there's such disparate viewpoints that the labels mean, in essence, nothing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to, Megan Ribbons talked here. She says, please comment on Trump answering a reporter's query for supporting data by calling them stupid. I don't know the specific one you're referring to. I have seen Trump do that quite a few times. Very interesting for a guy who speaks with the vocabulary of about a fifth grader, that he runs around calling people stupid. But hey, So now we've also got going on here. I really hate even talking about it, but it's the news, so I kind of have to. The Iranians evidently shot down an American helicopter. Then Trump came out running his mouth about how they had to pay for it. Now the U.S. is striking Iran again. Trump is also at the point saying that basically they're taking too long to make the deal that he said, oh my God. Trump says Iran will pay the price. President Donald Trump said this morning that Iran had taken too long to negotiate a deal that would have been great for them. Now they will have to pay the price. The only person that's ever said they were so eager to make a deal is Trump. So I don't know how to take it, how to interpret it. Whatever.
So just
go ahead, Seffi.
Stupid. The whole Iran deal thing, dumb. Can't comment. Okay, so Donald Trump on the 7th of June, talking to Kristen Welker, said that she was stupid. And then later ended the interview by removing his microphone and walking away. But apparently, so while I was Googling this, there's been many incidents of Trump calling people stupid. If you broaden the scope beyond the exact word stupid, the list becomes much longer. Trump has frequently called people idiot, jerk, low IQ, dumb as a rock, moron, nasty person, third-rate reporter, fake news, enemy of the people. He called NBC's Peter Alexander an idiot and a jerk during an Oval Office exchange. He referred to CNN's Caitlin Collins as a nasty person, called MSNBC host Mika, whatever the hell, dumb as a rock and low IQ, crazy Mika, called New York Times reporter Katie Rogers ugly inside and out.
Oh, look, Michael Nyron's joined the show. Michael Nyron, there's no defaming going on, sir. Block you? Why the hell would I block you? You don't say anything that's really challenging. I don't know who I defamed. I would love for you to point it out. Matter of fact, I would love for you to file the suit. I'll tell you what, I'll defend myself. Please remember, sir, that when it comes to defamation laws, that truth is a defense. So show me, Michael, big man, who I've defamed. I would love it. Attacks on Nyron and Wiener from I Like Numbers. I'm in the truth business. I didn't say anybody was or wasn't an objectivist, Michael. Whom did I say wasn't an objectivist? Name one person. I'll wait. That's an interesting thing right there, because I didn't say it. I don't say it. I'm not the arbiter. And, you know.
Anyway.
But I want to know who I've defamed. That's my the big thing I would like to know. But anyways, back to what are today's topics. The first one is, I said morals, manners, Samuel Adams, and more. Oh, Michael, you've really hurt my feelings. You called me a thug because I've attacked you. Oh, I didn't attack you, Michael. That's not an attack. I'd hate to see how you'd respond if you were actually attacked. There's no attack. I'm just telling the truth. Yes, arguing about things also isn't what thugs do. But, I mean, if we're going to retrace the history, Michael is the first one who came out and criticized me because I opposed the war run by the guy that he compared to Hitler. Michael's the guy who criticized me for standing up for the Constitution that 2 weeks before he criticized me for, he was praising the Supreme Court for holding Trump accountable under. Michael came after me first. And I haven't even, I haven't threatened him. I haven't done anything bad. I've simply dismantled his arguments piece by piece. I guess that's what thugs do. thugs dismantle their opponent's weak sauce arguments over and over again. I guess thugs also are prone to pointing out the contradictions when somebody spends half their time on Facebook criticizing anarchists and then a good amount of his money supporting them. I don't know.
So,
Is that the
did you-
defamation? Just curious.
Did you know that Axios in 2018 actually published an article about all the people that Trump has called dumb as a rock?
Sure, I believe it.
So it's insane, actually. He's called at least 10 people dumb as a rock, which is really funny coming from him. And low IQ. Low IQ is something that apparently he loves to bandy around. I'm compiling a list of all the times that Trump has like outright insulted people.
All right. So can we get to the actual...
Well, one of the articles that you sent was
but-
about
yeah.
civility and about how
It
Trump
is, but
so-
that's downstream. We have to start with the actual, you know what I mean?
Go ahead.
I'm also laughing with what Ian Gilmore says. Okay. The other funny thing, just to button this up, he attacks us because it's all he knows how to do. He commented on my post this morning and told me I should self-reflect. I didn't go to his post. He came to mine.
Yeah, I feel like if you react to someone explaining verbatim what you did by crying defamation, then you should maybe think about what you're doing.
Yeah, okay. So there was an article, I think it might have been in the aforementioned Axios, as a matter of fact, it was, that Americans, I combined the two terms, Americans' morals hit a puritanical streak. As of now, fewer Americans say birth control, having a baby outside of marriage, and gambling are morally okay this year compared to last. I hate when Axios does this to me, but they've done it, so I can't. Oh yeah, I like numbers is definitely Scott, Ian, because that's his terminology. The circular firing squad. That's his terminology. He can, he can be here as long as he's civil. I don't care. I just don't want people that are going to hog up the chat, just saying dumb things all the time. So this article, I mean, the percentages aren't very high, but Puritanism definitely, as they're defining it, is on the rise. I mean, I don't know why it is. I don't know if it has to do with religion coming back or if it's a revolt against the excesses of the left. I'm really not sure, but it is coming up. I mean, I asked on Facebook today whether most people reason their way to moral conclusions, and I don't think they do, and most people don't think that they do, at least not the people that I asked. So I also went into Claude and I asked, what is the dominant view of morality in the U.S. today, and how has it changed over time? What are some common minority but significant views? It says the dominant view today is moral syncretism and soft relativism. It says at the empirical level, the picture is striking. The dominant worldview in America today is what researchers call syncretism, an eclectic, highly personalized mixture of the sacred and the secular, and based by roughly 9 out of 10 adults. It thrives on relativism and the flexibility of its core beliefs. I mean, basically, there's no rational ethics that people, by and large, are adhering to. There's no integrated view of morality that people are orienting to. Yet, I mean, you throw into this mix the religious history of ethics, then, the sort of relativistic comebacks. There's a big mix-up in this country, in probably the world, about what morality is, whether there's a morality, And in my view, that's a big problem.
So you said there's I can't remember exactly what you said. I know you said it like a minute ago, but there's a lack of understanding of what morality is. Why would there be an understanding? Because for the most part, people get their understanding of morality from religion. That's how people are usually
Well,
taught.
but no, not anymore.
Let me finish a thought.
All
So
right.
that's where people historically have gotten their understanding of morality from. Now you have religion kind of dying off, but there's nothing to replace that because people aren't generally taught ethics or morality. You can study, like you can do an ethics course in college, but generally speaking, you're not taught ethics. So you had people like getting their morals from religion, but then with religions kind of dying out, there was nothing to replace that. So where would they get an understanding of ethics and morality?
Well, but that kind of begs the question of why isn't it being taught? Why aren't, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, so colonial through the early republic here in America, Protestant Christianity was dominant. The 19th century, Protestant moralism. But in the early 20th century, the progressive era pragmatism associated with Dewey. So here's something, look at here, Maribin's quoted John Dewey, and I'll read it in a second. But the point is that they got that. I mean, they got the progressive era pragmatism somehow. That wasn't religious. It challenged fixed moral rules in favor of experimental, socially adaptive ethics. And now in the mid-20th century, it sought a peculiar moral consensus, Judeo-Christian values plus liberal democratic rights, anti-communist virtue. That's in the mid-20th century. In the late 20th century, Rawlsian liberalism had an impact. So, I mean, they're getting it somewhere. It's just not from reason. Megan says, moral principles in education. It's a quote from Dewey's Moral Principles in Education. Apart from participation in social life, the school has no moral end nor aim. Jesus. Social life.
I'd almost argue that what's happening now is worse because people do obviously pick up little bits and pieces of like ethics and philosophy from all sorts of places, right? They'll have a discussion with someone, or they'll see something online, or they'll read an article, and they'll absorb little bits and pieces from different places, but there's nothing unifying that. So they're just absorbing what feels right to them, and there is nothing teaching them how to unify things. It's all just based on what they absorb from their surroundings, what feels right, what their friends think is moral or ethical, but there is no basis for any of it. They are building a house like by just throwing bricks on the ground, you know, do you understand what I'm saying? And I almost think that that's more dangerous than just not having anything, because now you've got all these little bits and pieces, and some of it's contradictory, and you don't even notice that it's contradictory because most of the time you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. So there is a connection. Like I said, I try to connect things on the show. Now, obviously, we took up a little bit of time at the beginning because I wanted to talk about my own experiences, but we're still going to try to get through everything as advertised. But we might have to abbreviate some of it. There was an article, as you said, about civility. That article this morning, I believe, tell me where the article was from so I can just look at this. I don't want to have to switch again. From the Daily Economy, there was an article about squeaky dog toys. No. Article about civility, the lack of civility. So I wanted to know, okay, well, and in that article, they differentiated between civility and manners. And so I wanted to know, well, what's the difference between morality, civility, and manners? So according to Gemini, morality is the foundational principles of right and wrong, good and evil, and justice. Civility is a disposition of respect, tolerance, and empathy, and manners is the specific, often traditional rules of etiquette and polite behavior. I would argue that one's moral views shape the other, right? That a person's moral views ultimately is going to shape whether they're civil and the types of things that pass for manners. And look, certainly on social media, there's been a decline of civility. And certainly, I don't know. I constantly hear about a lack of civility in life. Now, speaking of my old thuggish ways, in prison, there's very little courtesy, right? So guys will cut the line. They don't care. You're waiting in a med line for an hour. Guys just come in and go to the end. But evidently, this type of thing happens in civil society out here as well. And that is not a good sign. When it comes to, when it comes to civility, if that breaks down, I mean, if you look at things like, I wanted to cite this, but it's too off, but I'm going to talk a little bit, civilization and its discontents. The veneer of civilization is thin. And if we allow that to break down, things get really ugly. Travis Hirschai, in his social bonding theory, for instance, he taught that people have to buy in to the society in which they live. And when they don't, they end up committing crimes. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. The four elements of social bonds: attachment, emotional connections to family, friends, and teachers, and other significant people. So you have to have attachments to people. A commitment, investment in conventional goals such as education, career, and raise reputation. Involvement, participation in socially approved activities, schools, sports, and clubs, and belief. This is where this comes in. Belief is acceptance of society's norms, laws, and moral values. If you don't have a accepted sort of moral framework within a society, if you have people that don't behave civilly toward one another in cases of disagreement, if you have people that reject this, it doesn't turn out well. Persephone, what say you?
Yes. I was researching something. So, in an American Bar Association survey, 85% of respondents believe civility has worsened over the last 10 years. Most Americans describe society as uncivil and believe that political and online discourse have become increasingly hostile. I was curious whether there was like any actual statistics about this. And it's really funny that one of the articles was about Trump, because the first thing in like why people think society has become less civil is that political discourse has become more polarized and hostile, and social media rewards outrage, ridicule, and conflict.
Fair enough. I think that's probably true.
The other interesting thing is that every generation tends to think that the next generation is less polite, and there are a lot of behaviors that older generations considered rude that are like more common today, and whether that's like the next generation being less civil or just like norms changing, it's neither here nor there. But I just find it interesting that one of the biggest things is social media, trust in institutions and fellow citizens has declined. Political discourse is more hostile, and then social media is a crapshoot.
Well, we here today are on the Capitalist Corner. And by the way, everybody, we would love to hear your comments, your questions. Megan says, to be fair, in the past, American politicians would duel with swords in congressional buildings. I'm glad that isn't happening now. Yes, this is a good point, Megan. Jim Valiant says people confuse crass with authentic, and I think that's true.
True.
I made this mistake myself in relation to Chris Christie years ago. You know, he was blunt and abrupt in the way he would talk to people, and I assumed that meant that he was honest. Next thing I know, he endorsed Donald Trump. And then I read an article about how he's not so honest. Donald Trump, people always say that he's authentic. No, he's a liar. He's just an asshole. So it's not that he's some straight shooter. It's that he says whatever comes to his mind, and it doesn't necessarily have to be true. So I wish Jim were here for the discussion of Sam Adams. I just want to say, Sam Adams, what a great impact on America, on the Bill of Rights, on independence. This guy was freaking great. Let me just give you some biographical stuff real quickly here. Born in Boston, Massachusetts. He was a delegate to the Continental Congress. He was seminal, a very important figure. He opposed the Sugar Act. He thought about the rights of the colonists. He was there with the adoption of the Committees of Correspondence that we talked about yesterday with, I believe, Mercy Otis Warren we were talking about. And he wrote this, and I just read it today for the first time, The Rights of Colonists by Sam Adams. And this is what I think that we need today, is we need somebody like a Sam Adams. Now, he was a propagandist. He was extreme, hyperbolic, yes, and that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But someone that talks like this. Among the natural rights of the colonists are these. First, a right to life. Secondly, to liberty. Thirdly, to property, together with the right to support and defend them in the best manner they can. These are evident branches of, rather than deductions from, the duty of self-preservation, commonly called the first law of nature. I don't believe that there's a duty of self-preservation, but nonetheless, tying the right to life, liberty, and property to individual life is an extreme advance in moral thinking and political thinking, and just making the argument for life, liberty, and property and the right to defend them. I mean, where is that today? I don't see it in America. I don't know if it's in any country out there, Persephone, but Sam Adams was making the argument in the 1770s.
It's not anywhere today that I know of. You know what I find really funny?
No.
And when I say funny, I mean sad. Is that if you look at America's founding principles and then you look at America today, you have society kind of split into both rejecting America's founding principles for like two wildly different reasons. And I find that like really kind of sad.
What are they?
What?
The two reasons.
Didn't
you say for two principally different reasons?
Yes, I did. I don't like it when you make me explain myself. So
I know. One would think we were on a talk show or something.
No, you're on a talk show. I'm just here to, I don't know, do tech support and Google things. So you have some people who say, well, you know, we need to go back to our roots and work out my thoughts. So you have some people who say, like,
Heritage Americans.
Those people,
yeah.
Right? And then you've got the other people who are like, well, America is racist and we need to reject everything that America stands for because capitalism and blah, blah, blah. So you have two groups both saying, fuck what America stood for when it was founded. And they both think that the other side is like protecting America. But both of them are saying that they don't like what America stood for. That makes sense?
They're not keen on the founding ideas, I think is what you were saying. Would that be correct?
That would be correct, yeah.
Another gem from Sam. He says that a commonwealth or state is a body politic or civil society of men united together to promote their mutual safety and prosperity by means of their union. The absolute rights of Englishmen and all freemen in or out of civil society are principally personal security, personal liberty, and private property. Nothing? No comments? Okay, I'll comment. I think Sam Adams is great. He was a bit of a rebel rouser, helped spark the Boston Tea Party, although he didn't participate. At first, he was opposed to the Constitution because it lacked a Bill of Rights, but subsequently he came to support it. I think that it's important. I really want to do this every day, at least until the 4th, where we discuss founding fathers. We'll get to that in a minute, the answers to these questions. But I think we need to reclaim the founding ideas of this country. And by reclaim, maybe that's not the right way to put it. I think we need to really get it out there that these were the founding ideas of the country. That the idea was not founded as some kind of, the country wasn't founded as some kind of a Christian republic. It's not a Christian nation. It's not based on your heritage or your blood. It's based on the ideas that men are meant to be free. And by men, I mean men and women, Persephone, so you are included, and so is Megan. That we have rights. Reassert, yes, but more than just reassert, Race. I want reassert, but reestablish. Like, really get people to understand this. And I mean, people have tried already to put this stuff out there, but maybe us that are here today can do a bit of a better job. Go ahead, Sephi.
Yes. So Greg says it may be even worse. The right reframes their Christian nationalism as the original intent.
Yes.
Yeah, it's sad. And I say that as a person who's not American and who is therefore not in any way affected by, any of what's happening. But even to me, it's sad, because if you look at the founding of America, it is really inspirational, even as someone who's not from there. It is inspirational. And then if you look at what people are doing and how they're behaving and the way that they just absolutely shit on all of the founding principles, it's sad. It is sad.
Very. Megan says she loves the review of the Founding Fathers. Megan, I'm interested in maybe getting you to be a part of the bench here on the show for when the others, Mark, isn't here. Please let me know or let Persephone know if that's something you would be interested in doing, because I'd certainly be interested in having you here.
Can I ask Megan a question?
Who am I to stop you?
Megan, how much do you know about AI ed tech that's in schools nowadays?
God.
No, shush. You guys have a thing. I want to know.
I know, but you asked me this earlier, and I already told you. But what you did just now,
Well, I'm asking her.
This what you did. Let me tell you what you just did. What you just did was, Dad said no, so you went to ask Mom.
No.
Yeah.
No. You didn't say no. You said you don't know enough about it. I said
I'm not really interested because I don't. And then you told me I needed to do research, and I said, yeah, as if I'm not doing enough research as it is.
No,
So
I just want to know if Megan knows about it. You don't have to
that's
do it.
pure codswall. You're not
don't
just
have to-
curious. That's not true. You're
We'll
not just curious.
We'll get James and Megan to do an episode together.
James hasn't been in school in 70 years. And now you want James to do this? And I wouldn't say my knowledge is comprehensive. She's just curious. We've got a ton to talk about on the Saturday show without Persephone bringing in this far-off thing that we don't know about. Why are you giving me that look?
I'm so sorry that I find it interesting. How about me and Megan do a show and you can
Perfect.
Just sit in the audience?
I'll do that. That's great. So coming up in a few weeks, Persephone and Megan are going to be talking about this, whatever the hell it is. I don't even know what. And they're going to be talking about it on Saturday. That will be great.
Fabulous. Okay.
Megan says yes, 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 but now I don't know if she's talking about this or if she's answering my question about being part of the bench for this show. That's the problem with these things. Okay. What was I going to say now? I don't remember.
Founding fathers. Answer the no. Read the answers from yesterday's question about the founding fathers.
All right, I will, and you are doing the capitalist thought of the day today, so start to think of one.
Why do you hate
That's
me?
not one. I watched this movie. You know what happened to me that really pissed me off? Let me just tell you something. So on Sunday night, I ordered this movie, The Book Thief. I had read the book when I was in prison, and I really always wanted to see the movie, and I now have Apple TV, but you still have to pay for it, so I ordered it. So $4, got the movie. I was so tired, I only made it through, half of it, roughly, right? So I said, that's okay. I'm going to New York tomorrow. When I come back on Tuesday night, we'll finish watching the movie. So evidently, I ordered the movie at 7:38 on Sunday night. So a little after 8 last night, I go to put it on, and I had to buy it again because 48 hours had passed from the time I first started watching it. I was so happy. I mean, so unhappy. I'm looking at cupcakes and rainbows from Megan. I was so aggravated, and I had to buy it again. I mean, I had to rent it. I wanted to watch the end. I'm not going to leave a movie out there half-watched. So I ended up watching it, but I recommend it. The Book Thief, great, great movie. Recommend it highly. What are you looking up?
I'm always looking things up.
Okay, I got to find this. It's like renting a video. Yeah, you have to have it back.
I've never understood that. I don't rent things. Like, I don't rent digital things. I'll buy it, but I won't rent it. I don't like the idea of renting media anymore.
Okay. So you want us to talk about Madison. That's Persephone. Greg Doherty wants us to click a YouTube link. He also says Alexander Hamilton for the purpose of exposing the anti-freedom nature of his ideas. Fine with that. And Phil wants to know what I have against boomers, and I told him I was kidding. I really don't have anything against them. Okay, Sephi, capitalist thought of the day time.
Why do you think that I am the right person to give a capitalist thought of the day? That's what I want to know. What about me screams like I'm the right person to do this? I'm very good at formulating things like when it's written. If you ask me now to give you a thought, my brain goes blank.
Okay. I did an interview this morning about billionaires and whether billionaires should be paying more taxes. So my in talking to the guy, I asked him a question, and I'm going to discuss that question just a little bit here today. Especially in the circles and the people that I come in contact with, there's a lot of statements that the moral arguments are what are going to change minds. Other people think that, no, it's economic arguments that are going to change minds. I personally think while morality is primary, we need both. If we're going to advocate for free markets, we need to understand them beyond just understanding that people should be free and that it's immoral to initiate force. I know that's a simplified version. I just don't have time to give the full account of my moral views when it comes to capitalism. But nevertheless, we need to be able to make the economic arguments as well. We need to familiarize ourselves. So I would suggest 3 books. If you want to start making good arguments for capitalism, I would read The Law by Frederick Bastiat. I would read Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal by Ayn Rand. And I would read Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. If you read those 3 books, you will be armed with the fundamentals to advocate for a free society. Okay, Sephi, ask him a question.
Oh. Who is your favorite comedian? That's my question. If anybody's interested, my favorite comedian is Dylan Moran.
Mine is Don Rickles. But yeah, so please go to YouTube and answer the question. We'd really appreciate it. We'll be back on this channel at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time today to do Everyday Ethics, and then 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time today to do Crime, Criminals, and the Culture of Corrections. So please join us. Please subscribe. Please become a member. And until then, what the hell am I supposed to say? Oh, check your
Check
premises.
your premises. Peace.